Hello, I'm Craig Constantine. Welcome to the Movers Mindset Podcast, where I talk with movement enthusiasts to learn who they are, what they do, and why they do it. My guest today is Rodrigo Pimentel. Welcome, Rodrigo. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Uh, just so many things to talk about. So we do that intro that's at the front. I don't edit that on later, people. I actually just said it.
It's
And
true. I
we
confirm.
sometimes guests like, that's surprising. I didn't realize that you actually say that. Like, yeah, I said it a couple times now. We met at the rendezvous in London, and I'm going to think was that September? Was that August?
It was mid-August.
Mid-August. Um, and it was super cool. I always love when I get a chance to talk to people in person before I get a chance to talk to them virtually. So we had a little call before, and then we talked a little bit today. And there's two kinds of people who know who you are and people who don't know who you are. If they know who you are, they know the story, but most people probably don't know your story. And we wanted to talk today about recovery. So I won't tell the story for you, but we wanted to talk today about recovery and about lessons, like how your parkour training wound up being sort of like the pre-journey to the hero's journey, I would say. And as I was thinking about this show, for people listening, if anybody knows Andy Fisher, there used to be a great podcast called The Hero Forge. And I will say that I have saved all the episodes. I have them all, but it's no longer available as a podcast. And I was like, oh, you totally need to talk to Andy Fisher. So maybe one day I can get the two of you together with microphones,
Oh,
and
that'd
I'd
be
love to hear
nice.
you guys have a conversation too. But Hero Forge diatribe aside, can you tell me a little bit, like, because we just, it's like, I don't know how much of it you want to unpack, but tell me, like, what happened to you and give me some context for, like, how it started and what really happened.
Yeah. So nearly 3 years ago, it was December 2020, I had a stroke. I fully collapsed. It was in my house. I can tell the whole story a bit later. I collapsed in my house. I had to be rescued. There's a wider window, as they do here in Amsterdam, where I live. I had to go into emergency surgery. It was a thrombosis. It was essentially like my brain had a clot, like a brain artery had a clot. So they had to lower my body temperature, do emergency surgery, remove the clot. They did. It worked, of course. But they didn't know it at the time. So they knew that the surgery had been a success, but they told my wife, who was there, thankfully, and who was the one who actually called emergency services. They told, okay, so we managed to remove the clot, but we don't know if he's going to wake up. If he does, we don't know if he's going to be like a vegetable. And if he's not, we don't know if he's going to recognize anyone. And if he does, they couldn't tell anything.
Yeah.
So we have to wait and see. Also, we don't know how long it's going to take for him to wake up if he does.
Hmm.
So it was like very like a near death experience. So to this day, I'm not entirely sure if technically I was dead at all. Maybe
Hmm.
I'm even that I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit unclear to me. I tend to joke like so that I was dead. And I didn't know. Oh, well, like when I died this, when I died that, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway,
Close
um,
enough.
yeah,
I don't think we need to split hairs on that. I would call that close enough.
yeah. And then like I did wake up that same day, and I had it all like it was everything was a bit hazy, but I had all my faculties. I recognized my wife and my very good friend who was there with her, like helping her and helping us. uh, but I couldn't. Well, I couldn't see properly. Everything was very blurry, and then I had double vision for a long time because my brain couldn't process the
Hmm.
like the images from both eyes. So I had to wear an eye patch for a long time. I had to wear an eye patch, which was funny. I could barely speak. My voice was very slurred. It was as if you go out on a very cold day and your lips sort of freeze, and then you
Hmm.
see that it's harder to speak. But it was like, and it was that times 100. It was really hard to speak. I hear back like so audio, like messages that I sent from the time, and I can hardly understand myself. I couldn't walk at all. uh, I didn't have it like motor control in my hands. Like I couldn't hold it, like a glass or anything. Things like that. Like, yeah, I think that's the bulk of it. Um, yeah, so this is what happened.
And it only takes, I didn't look exactly, but it's like 2 minutes to explain it, right? And it happened, sounds like it happened in moments. Like things went from being, I have a headache to, you know, we need to call emergency services.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's hard to convey. People who've spoken to you in person would have a good sense of what it means to you to hear you tell that. Like it's, some of it is lost in video, but I think most that if I had to choose audio or video, I'll take audio over no video, over having video. And I think if people get a chance to talk to you, even as you tell that story, not the first time you've told that story, I can still hear and I can still see that it's very obviously deeply meaningful to you. And what I would hope that we can capture today is some sense of the journey. I don't know that we necessarily want to take people to the dark place, and although it's your show, you can go wherever you want. I'll do my best to follow. But I think when you and I had talked previously, you had talked about some of the things that you began imagining, or, well, if I can do this, I could try that. And the idea of how do you begin, I was going to say moving, but I paused because it didn't start with physical movement. But how did you begin navigating from? I don't want to say being trapped in your mind, like all you have is your mental faculties, because I don't want to make it sound so negative, like, oh, you're trapped. But
Yeah.
how did you navigate from that space where you maybe felt trapped? Did you feel trapped? To how did you navigate to what are the first signs that made you think that, transformation was possible from that newfound experience?
I think so. As much as I would like to sort of claim credit for how I recovered, or like how I faced recovery. And by the way, you mentioned that our story today was going to be about recovery. So it's not recovery from, if the listener hasn't realized yet, it's not recovery from sore muscles. It's recovery from death. So, but the way I faced recovery, I think was very positive. It was a very light way of seeing that. And as I say, much so light to take credit for it. Um, it just came naturally, and I in all this experience, I think I was very lucky. And one of the ways in which I was lucky was that uh, I even surprised myself by realizing how relaxed I was about all this. Because if you'd asked me before the stroke, oh, if you had a stroke, how, you were confined to bed, how would you you could barely speak, you could barely see, you can use your hands properly. How do you think you'd react? And my expectation was that I'd be angry, I'd be bitter, I'd be annoyed, I'd be can everything fails. Like you can't do simple stuff, like very simple stuff. You can't hold the thing. I remember a bit later on I was starting already to get some of my my motor control back. And I wanted to use my computer and I couldn't type my password because my finger would just twitch. I'd just go into the
Mm.
right keys and just I couldn't do things that and I'm a touch typist. I can type very easily, and it was very the kind of thing that would be infuriating. But all through that, like even in the very beginning, I was not trapped in my body in that sense because I couldn't move. I was like trapped in bed. I couldn't walk. I couldn't be independent by any means whatsoever. Um, but all the time, again, luckily, I think I saw this as okay. This is what it is. This is something that happened. What I can do now is what I can affect now is what can I do about it. Like, what's the best I can try? And even then, like as with when I was post surgery, all my therapists and doctors, like, they couldn't say, "Oh, yeah, you're going to walk again. Like, if you put in the effort, you're going to walk, or you're going to be able to, type or write again, or tie your shoelaces again." None of this was a certainty, like, at all. Like,
Hmm.
no matter how much effort I put in. And this is something I was talking to someone. I don't remember who it was. Like, the other day, very recently, uh, about all this and about all the effort that I put in, which I did. And they said, well, you trust in the process. I wasn't trusting the process because it was not guaranteed that the process was going to get you there. Because if it were like, yeah, because sometimes, if you trust the process and you do it, you're going to get there. Fine. Then it's, no, I'm saying it's easy, but it's simple. So you can trust the process, do the thing like consistently, and then you'll achieve what you want. But that wasn't the case. It was very uncertain. Like, there was no well, I stayed like for a week in hospital, and then they moved me to a rehab facility essentially, and there I had loads of different types of therapy, like physical therapy, speech therapy, etc., occupational therapy, um, and all of them were very clear. Like, we'll help you go as far as you want, as far as you can. We're making no promises. We have no idea. Like, all we can do is try. Fine. So yeah, fine. I'll do it. And then I did it. And I've said it many times, and I'll keep saying it. I was very lucky in that my recovery, like, it went really well. But I I face like everything. I took everything as a bonus. Like, everything was a bonus. Like, the way my life was at that point was, I can't walk. Maybe like at the point where, because in the beginning everything was a bit foggy, but like, at the point where I started to think more like clearly about this, I could maybe walk a few steps with a walker. I could hardly speak. I had to wear an eye patch. Uh, this kind of things. I couldn't write to his computer or anything. So that was life. Okay, this is where I am right now. Anything else a bonus, but I'm only going to get the bonus if I do something about it. Like, or rather, I will only get a chance of getting the bonus if I do something about it. So yeah, I'll do it. Fine. So that's where I started. Yeah, I was like immersing myself in all the therapies.
You you mentioned the idea of independence and how I'm wondering. I'm always interested in transitions, or when something happens to someone, if they how soon after it happens do they notice that the change has actually occurred. So, like, how do you have any recollection of when you realized, oh, it seems to me like what's really been taken away, the thing that really hurt, is the independence thing. Like, those of us who train in parkour, a lot of what we do is very independent. Yes, we go to jams or we go to classes, but really it's oneself. Like, it's a method of improving oneself, and it's very independent. And I'm wondering if you noticed quickly or later, or like, there seems to be like this really powerful, I want to say, like, skill that you had, which was the ability to actually rely on other people, to ask for help, to
Yeah.
be receptive of help. And I'm not convinced that I would be any good at that. And maybe if something really traumatic happens, I'd have the opportunity to be a different person. I don't know. But, like, does that strike you as like a real thing that I'm pointing at about that shift from?
Yeah, definitely. This is also an aspect in which it's like I surprise myself at being like positive about it, because usually I'm not good at like so accepting help for things. I'm good at offering help and trying to be there or, like, to make sacrifices to help people. uh, I'm not good at accepting that help at all. Uh, but I was very
Yeah.
good. I think very receptive to help when I was recovering, and I think, and I reflected about it again because I was surprised. Um, and what I noticed was that I'm not good at accepting help when I think I should be able to do it. Like, oh, should I help you
Mm,
carry it? No, I should be able to do it. Like, even if maybe I can't. Even if it's too heavy, I should be stronger. Or if I'm injured, no, I should whatever, just work to the pain. I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's reasonable, but that's where my mind goes. But then, like, to me, it was very clear that it wasn't my fault, because the whole stroke thing. Well, we could never fully understand. Like, doctors could never say, "Okay, this is exactly what happened," and because I didn't have high cholesterol. I was exercising a lot. Like, I was very healthy. They checked my heart for like holes. It was nothing obvious. There was like there's a chance it's related to an aneurysm that
Yeah.
any aneurysm that I've had forever. but it wasn't nothing I could have done differently. So it wasn't my fault, and I never felt that it was my fault. And I know that a lot of people who go through some kind of experience like that, they even though it may not be rational, they will feel like it's their fault.
Right.
We had counseling as well, and this is one of the things that they asked me. Yeah, I never did. So again, I was in this condition. I couldn't do anything about it, like me in the short term. It wasn't my fault. So no, if I couldn't eat with a spoon, yeah, I'll take help. It's fine. Like, there's nothing. There's no amount of stubbornness that will get me through it. I just won't be able to do it. No, if I can't walk unless someone like props me up, yeah, I can't. I literally can't. Like, if I put my feet on the ground, I will collapse. So I just accepted help like very easily, very naturally. I think because it was very clear. It was like intimately clear to me that I needed help. Like, as in, that is fine. Like, there's no way I can do this. Just like, I'll take help if I'm carrying, I don't know, a big chest around. And it's like, this is not meant for one person to carry. That was I think that's how I saw things. And especially when I was in recovery, yeah, that's fine. There's no shame. There's nothing I can do to do it on my own.
And that makes me wonder, there might not be, but maybe I hope I'm wrong. There might not be anything that you can suggest to someone. Yeah. So here's a random thought that I had today. And I'm like, oh, I feel like this connects. I was just sitting in a reading chair thinking, I get to talk to Rodrigo this afternoon, my time, evening for you. And I was thinking, I actually feel pretty tired. Like, it's kind of the holidays around here and I haven't been eating so well. And I went for a run today and it was like, I rate, I'm like, well, it wasn't the best run ever. I felt like I was working hard, but it's cold and it's gray. I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. And I was just kind of sitting there thinking, wasn't feeling that was a lousy day or a lousy run. I was just like, yeah, that was pretty good. I actually don't feel like I want to run faster than that. Or I don't feel like I wanted to do, pick any other random activity that I could have chosen. And the thought that I had that I wanted to point to here was, when you're younger, at least when I was younger, I kind of railed at the thought that someday I'm going to have to slow down or stop doing X or shift to Y or accept help or all these things. And now I'm thinking, yeah, actually, no, that's not what's happening. What's happening is I don't want to do the things that I didn't want to shift to getting help. I'm like, no, I don't. I just feel like I don't need to do all this stuff that would require so much more help. And I feel like I'm more interested in generally slowing down, maybe not like running more slowly. I just mean generally like
Yeah.
where once I would get 30 things done in a day, now I get 20 things done in a day and I don't feel any less. I just feel like, yeah, it was still great. That was a perspective that I was thinking about. Like, how could I, like specifically, Craig, how could I possibly try to imagine what it would be like before and after? And I don't know if that's super helpful because what are the chances of anybody else having the same experience? It's like zero.
I hope not. Yeah.
I'm air quoting, won the lottery, you won the bad lottery, and it's a very rare occurrence for it to just be completely out of the blue. But that's something that interests me here is like, what are the takeaways for people who are listening?
So I think, and this is something that I think, like specifically practicing parkour as well as like long distance running. Sorry, I just hit my desk here. As well as well as long distance running, which I also like, and probably some meditation, which I did like more often a few years ago and perhaps a few years before the stroke. They sort of helped me be in this frame of mind that, okay, this is what's happening. Like, there's no point in being angry or being bitter. That's just it. This is what it is.
Mm.
Uh, and the only thing I can do about it, or rather, in many ways, is I can't do anything about it right now. What I can do is like not panic, not get bitter. Like all of that will only make me stop. Will only make it worse.
Make it worse.
So and as I said, this came sort of naturally, but I think this is the mindset that I had. Actually, this sentence, like, this is what's happening. That this like kept coming back to me over and over and over. Like, this was happening, and as I was recovering, like, I spent, I think, about 2 months in the rehab clinic, and then I came back home. I was recovering well, but still I had to go back like almost every day for therapy for a while, for a few months. But especially when I was in the clinic, and for the first month or so, I couldn't walk. Like, I had a walker, even then, like I walked as exercise. It wasn't like pleasant walking. It was just very slowly going forward. It is like training, but it's not like, oh, I'll just go for a walk. It wasn't that. I couldn't even leave the building. So I had lots of time like in bed, just like looking at the ceiling, because also I couldn't see properly. So it was hard
Mm.
to like breathe. At some point, a friend gave me a subscription to like an audiobook service, which like really helped me. But still, like I had a lot of time to just do nothing but contemplate life. And this idea that, okay, like, again, this is what it is. Like, this was happening. Like, I'm here, like, on my own, like, in this room. I'm not in my house. I can't walk, I can't see, I can't speak, I can't hold things. uh what like what do I do? And then what do I do would become, I'll go for a training walk, because I know that any movement in my legs will help me. I'll start touching my fingers, like, with the other fingers, like, right, this is practice. Like, this became like, it's like lifting weights, like, for the fingers, if you can't do anything else. Or even I say, I'll cover one eye and try to see with the other, and then, like, what happens if I uncover both? Then I'll just get double vision. But can I make the images, like, with my head? Can I make the images like merge?
Mm.
And of course, I couldn't for a long time until I could. But it's like, in a way, it became sort of a game, like a pastime. But something that, okay, I have time to fill. Just like when you're, if you're doing, I don't know, you have to QM backwards up the stairs, like, 100 times. You have time to kill. You're doing something, or if you're running for 30 kilometers, you're thinking a lot of the time, and then just entertain yourself. Um, so I think, yeah. So a lot of it was like the I'd say the main takeaway, even today, because today I find myself again being annoyed or bitter, frustrated at things I cannot do. I go back to, well, hang on. Like, when I couldn't do a lot more than I can't do now, I took it easier. What's happening? And then I have to go, this is just what's happening. How do I move on? Like, what do I do now that this is reality?
I think that's a really healthy perspective. Um, there's a quote. I forget which philosopher said this, but something like all of man's problems arise from not being able to sit in a room quietly by themselves, which comes from the underlying idea of that quote is that you need to have your thoughts sort of under control. You need to be able to like enjoy spending time with your own thoughts. Um, and a lot of what you were describing there sounds like somebody who was pretty good, like from day, however you think of the days that are post, day one, the first day of your new life. Um, Sounds like you were pretty good at that right out of the gate. And I'm wondering, you kind of alluded a little bit to, maybe you were a little more excitable or frustratable or not so good at receiving help before. Um, but I'm just wondering if did that, do you think you were a little more prepared than maybe you were when you were a teenager? Or like, did your journey of studying parkour and there's a lot of books in the background? Like, I'm just wondering, uh, did you also draw the lucky card about being someone who was able to sit alone in a room by themselves? Or
Yeah.
do you feel like there were some particular things that you did or that you chanced upon that served you well?
So I was never specifically chasing that, like this sort of inner peace. I can just be on my own. But I have, for instance, for a while I meditated in small amounts, but because I, just felt relaxed, felt good. I also gravitated in more recent years, I mean, last 10 years perhaps, towards things like parkour and running, especially long distance running,
Hmm.
which are or can be like somewhat meditative in that sense.
Meditative.
Like they force you to look inwards a lot. Um, so in long distance running, that's obvious because you're not talking to anyone, you're running for like
I'm
hours,
not,
and then
I'm only chuckling because I just read Haraki Murakumi's, if that's his name, the book on what I talk about when I talk about running.
yeah,
Have you read that?
yeah, no, exactly.
I read that I'm not a long distance runner. No way. I wouldn't mind being one, but I'm not a long distance runner. But when I was reading his book, I'm thinking like he was saying these things, and I always love when I get multiple like, yes, thank you for saying this. I need to hear this more, Rodrigo, about how, because when you're running, there's not much else you get to
Yeah,
do other than
exactly.
run.
And also at some point, like if you run long enough, uh, it's going to hurt, and but then you still have to run. It hurts, but you have to keep going. And then like something that I learned as I started running longer distances is that like the best thing to do when this is happening is not to try to distract yourself, because the instinct would be, oh, I'll just think of something else, I'll just sing a song. But if you do that, you just keep on getting distracted and pulled back into the pain, which you're trying to avoid. And that can be
Mm,
very, very frustrating. So what I read multiple times, I wish I could remember like the good reference for this, is to look, like actually focus into the pain with curiosity, like like what's happening, like what is in pain, and why are you in pain, like what happens if I change things slightly. And that's not even, not even trying to ease the pain or make it go away. It's just, no, just again, this was happening, like
mm,
there's something hurts. So let me just think about it a bit. Let me just focus on that. Like if it is like whatever, your left quad, think about it. Like what's happening? Why just the left? Why not the right? Like it's to hurt all the time. Does this still hurt? If I slightly change what part of my foot is striking the ground, does it hurt if I run a bit faster, if I run a bit slower? And think about the things like, and what happens is you sort of get distracted, but you get distracted in a way that doesn't feel like unnatural. Doesn't feel like you're trying to fight that pain.
mm,
You just go into it. And this helps a lot. I also find that kind of mentality in parkour, because in the end, like even when we're like training in larger groups, everyone's talking, everyone's chatting, and it can be a very like fun group activity. Like when you're facing like let's say a challenging jump, like at least in that second just before the jump, that's just you. Like nothing else exists. It's just you. And like it's kind of vary from person to person, day to day, and like jump to jump. But so maybe like the whole day is very introspective, or maybe like you just staying there for a few minutes, or just looking at that jump, or maybe like it's haha, you're making fun, talking to people, and being loud, and then focus on the thing. Then that's just you, moved inwards. And I really like that. I
mm,
like the expensive side of it as well. I like talking to people. I'm like I'm a shy extrovert. I get take energy from being in groups, uh, especially for things like parkour, which are like hard. Like I take energy from that, but I know and I practiced like being able to focus into like myself when I need it, when the time comes, right?
mm.
Especially when it's something hard or dangerous for whatever definition of danger. No, usually dangerous for me means I might get wet or I
Right.
might look bad. It's not. I'm not jumping off high buildings, but I might get wet or I might look silly or I might land on my butt or something like this. But either way, like at those moments, like when you need it, essentially, you can focus inwards. And actually, at those moments when you can't tune away the chatter, like I just can't do the jump. Like I'll try later, or I'll go somewhere else. Or I may even ask people to quiet down. So like those things, I think, like being able to turn yourself inward and then like move on, like tell yourself, okay, so what next? I think I wasn't trying to like, well, maybe one day I'll have a stroke. I wasn't trying to plan for something like this. Um, I actually sort of quite like this introspective side of things. Um, but like on general like preparedness for life, um, the approach. I think it is. I've always thought. I've long thought that it is useful. It's an important thing to be able to deal with it. Like if something comes, deal
Mhm.
with it with like not panic, like being calm about it. Like, because if you panic, you die. Essentially, right? So if you're calm, you figure something out. If nothing else, you figure out how to live with it. And I think this kind of mindset really helped me through.
I I can't think of a single thing that I can say after that that would do it justice. Um, I think I will just say, and of course, the final question: 3 words to describe your practice.
So I actually thought about that, like before the podcast. I knew it was coming, of course, as a long time listener. Um, and I'll give a bit of context. So as I mentioned, I train parkour and I run. Um, and there's also a few other things that I practice over time, like in the last years. Um, I do some sort of strength training. Now I'm doing calisthenics. I like with a coach. I should just do like just go to the gym on my own. And but the what happens with that is that it's too many things to focus at once. So in a way, it's very frustrating because I don't have enough time for anything. Like, oh yeah, you should like do maybe do strength training 3 times a week, but also like any running plan will require you to run 4 or 5 times a week, maybe, and then parkour at least to like at the very least, otherwise not making any progress. Also, I train on my own here in Amsterdam. I haven't found a parkour generations, which is my favorite sort of gym and group to train parkour with here in Amsterdam. So I ended up training on my own, which is not always easy because the motivation goes. Uh, so and I'm not but the best at discipline. So anyway, as you can see, just by rambling, I struggle to find like a good way of putting all the things I want to do in a week. So I end up shifting a lot. I end up like doing things like a bit of this and a bit of that, or like I say, I focus on parkour for a while, and they say, oh, actually, it's training too much. Like maybe I'll just focus on running because every time I go to the parkour spot now, it's wet and I can't do anything. So I switch focus and so on. I need to do more strength training because I can't do a climb out properly. So I'll do more strength training. Um, so in the end, like if you look at the big picture, it's a big basket of the things I want to do, and it's all in there together. And I'll just shake it, and somehow my
Yes.
week will come out. All this to say that I think I would. 'Cause again, I thought a bit about this. And I thought, well, should I talk about? Should I describe my actual practice, or my desired practice? Like, how should I do? But in the end, I think I describe my practice as bit of everything.
I love it. Um, I'm nodding along the whole time because I have the same I'm going to say it's an embarrassment of riches to have the time and the resources and the ability to like try so many different things and then try to force myself back into like, please just pick only 23. You can't have 204. Um, but I love that. That's a good bit of everything. That's a good answer. Um, so I will just say it was a pleasure to talk to you both in person, and I appreciate you coming on to tell your story and to share your journey. I know that a lot of people ask you about that, but I really do appreciate you taking the time and being so open about talking about it. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.